call this beat Will Smith, cause it slaps hard. Hear it not when I pull up on your boulevard.
Welcome to a special edition of Couch Chat. So sometimes people that start watching my stuff, they send me a lot of questions and they leave a lot of comments on my videos, which I enjoy. Sometimes it can take me a while to get back because there are just so many. And honestly, if you're not paying for coaching, then I have other videos to attend to. But I've had a young guys of late leaving a bunch of comments on my videos. So it sounds like he's either in middle school or high school, like he's 14 to 15-ish or so. So he's asked a lot of questions that I want to answer. I want to preface this by saying I am not your parent. So I always advise younger guys, they should be going to like uncles and their dads and stuff like that. But admittedly, a lot of those guys also don't know what they're doing. I started studying this stuff when I was 14 and I didn't really get into finding the right sources until I was like 21 to figure this stuff out. So I get it. So what I'm about to tell you is based on my experience and it's for entertainment purposes only. So there you go. So I'm going to go through each question he asked bit by bit because he asked a lot of them. So if you're watching this, you're welcome. I know you keep leaving comments on my videos. You can continue to do that. I might not get to them as fast as I am doing this one, but here we go. So the first question, he says, "Hey, Harry, I was wondering if you could make a video on how you can pull attractive women as an ugly guy and what kind of things might induce women to overlook your physical level of attractiveness. I've been battling horrible hair genetics my whole life and I'm trying to fix it." So he said he has bad hairline and loads of cowlicks. He's been growing out his hair, but it's long enough to restyle it. But until then, I've been studying guys who have managed to pull the baddest girls while not looking their best, like, for example, Sniper Wolf and her ex. I looked up the picture of who you're talking about. I see what you mean. He says, "I've been told I'm funny and have a pretty strong physique, though, but I'm worried I'm going to immediately repulse women when I try and talk to them because of my face, to be honest." Well, so I've read some of his other questions that come later where he's talking about all these girls that he's talking to that are also talking to him. So what that should show you, guy, is that ultimately ugly is relative. Now, obviously, some guys are going to say, "But no, I know for a fact, Harry, that I'm ugly and I have, I'm big or I have zits on my face and blah, 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 blah." Fine. We can all agree that society at large has some characteristics that that are indicative of this person is not the most attractive person in the world. All right. But ultimately, you have to understand that ugly is very much a state of mind also, and that what you consider to be ugly is one person's perspective, which is yours. I learned this, honestly, when I went to middle school and high school. Let's be real. I was like I went to predominantly white schools and I was like one of 12 black kids in my entire high school in my my junior and senior year of high school. And so there weren't a lot of women attracted to me, which in hindsight I could say was partly of my perspective. I didn't think that people found me attractive, therefore I didn't have a lot. And then when I got to college, I went to a predominantly black college where there are women all around that actually liked me. But again, I had low self-esteem and didn't think it was possible because of the previous experience I had in high school. So I had an opinion of I must not be a catch. I'm not that great looking. My hair doesn't look that great and I don't smell that great and I probably talk too fast and my teeth, like all this stuff, right? And I found out years later that all these women had crushes on me and I didn't realize it because I was stuck in my own head about what I felt women thought would be attractive and I thought I was not that. And so if you notice that there are women that are actively trying to talk to you and get with you, then what that means is that whatever you're bringing to the table for them works, all right? So you have to get out of your head. Sometimes we have programming from when we're little that makes us believe that we are not attractive enough or deserving of people. And that if you let that narrative get into your head, then that's going to color what you see around you. So you're going to be seeing girls that are probably showing you interest and think, no, they wouldn't want me because of my hairline and because of, whatever characteristics you think are ugly. And they could just be thinking, he's funny, he's vibrant, he makes me feel great, he has all these interests that I really, really like, he's a very smart guy. Like, there are other criteria that women are judging you on besides looks. Is looks important? Absolutely not going to disagree. But for her, your looks and what she finds attractive could be working for her right now. Like how you look could be working for the women that you're thinking you can't get. But because you're thinking, you're basically projecting onto them, you shouldn't like me because I don't like the way I look, and therefore I don't think you should either. And this is a very big lesson you need to learn as a young man, is that the energy that you bring to a woman, she's going to follow. So if you come to her with nervous energy, then it's going to feel like an awkward date. If you bring to her like you're confident and that you're secure, then she's going to be able to bask in that and let her mind relax a bit, and you guys will have a great time. This also goes with your looks. If you go to her and you're thinking in your head, I'm so ugly, girls aren't gonna want me, the fact that you're thinking girls aren't gonna want me is gonna make this girl not want you. Now, again, people will say, but she might not want you anyway. Doesn't matter. You can look at Hollywood as an example, but you can also look at, like, if you go like in your everyday life, just walk around and start to observe the number of guys that are pudgy and that have weird looking faces and glasses and weird crooked teeth that actually have like the hottest of women, because that happens. And the reason that happens is because those guys, even if they felt like maybe they weren't the best look wise, they were like, but I have all these other personality traits and hey, I'm the hot stuff. And so some girl's gonna want me. And that's the attitude you always need to have. Because again, if you're projecting out confidence, you're going to have more women than you realize that are hotties of hotties, like wanting to get with you because they find that confidence alluring. There are guys that walk with a bit of cockiness, even though they're not the best looking, and girls will initially laugh at it and be like, oh, but he's so confident. Oh, if he's so confident, I got to see what that's about. And then they go on and find out what it's about, and then they get with that person, all right? So don't let what you think about your looks stop you from getting with the women that you want to get with. The worst they can say is no, but if you're going to them already feeling defeated, you're going to face defeat. So that's the first question he asked. Second one, this is a long one. All right, but I'm going to read it because it's important. And I'm going to stop at parts. So he says, there's a girl named who has been reaching out to me on an almost daily basis and has been for quite some time. It's worth noting that she asked me if I was talking to other girls, and I said I was. Well, that's not the worst thing in the world to say, because I know you're trying to be honest. I will say a better answer would have been like, well, you know what? Right now, I'm a free agent. So until some girl comes along and wants to lock me down, I'm just, doing whatever. But like, you don't have to be so specific about that. But again, it's not a complete mess up. Anyway, he says, I explained that I decided to reach out to a few other people to see who I got along with. You need to do that. Like, women don't need to know the moves that you're making, and you don't need to explicitly tell them that. Women are great at what we call passive language, meaning when you tell them things, they're going to already read 2 to 3 times into it. So if you just stopped it like, oh, I'm a free agent. I'm just, out there and seeing what's what. Boom. She would have already thought he's probably talking to another girl, but she wouldn't have direct knowledge of that, which would make her think about you more. At the point that you say, oh yeah, I'm talking to other people, blah, 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 blah. Again, it's not the worst thing in the world, but you as a guy, it's better for a woman to assume that you're talking to a lot of girls than for you to try to put out there anything that's going to like clarify that for her, all right? Anyway, he says, I made it out like I was simply doing this to gain new friends in my community, and I told her I reached out to guys also. He says it's a lie. I talked to girls strictly for romantic reasons, except for childhood friends, and I didn't want her to realize I was talking to a bunch of girls at the time and think I was a creep. So, you're 14, right? This is a lesson that I wish I had at 14, because my brother was younger than me and got this lesson very early, which is that if other girls know you're talking to other girls, that does not make you a creep. What makes you a creep is if you're lying about it, and what makes you a creep is if you're actually doing creepy things. Because here's how women operate, right? Women like men that they know other women like. So if a girl, for example, likes you and knows you're talking to other women, you're thinking, she's gonna think, oh, he's so disgusting because he's talking to other women. And what she's actually thinking is, wow, he's talking to these other girls. He's validating that those other girls are hot. But I wanna also feel hot. Why isn't he talking to me? And this is why if you look in the, out in the world, when women get cheated on, usually it's not, they're thinking, how can I put this back together? They're not thinking right away, I want to leave him. Why? Because she's more mad at the fact that he chose somebody else, and she is now trying to prove that she's good enough to get back in his good graces, and also to like make him, she's wondering why he even cheated in the first place when she's supposed to be so great. It's an ego hit, right? So at the time when you're not dating anybody, you're not actually serious with anybody, you talking to multiple women is totally fine. Now, I will say, if you're in school, obviously, the only problem in school is that other girls can see you talking to other girls. Like when you get to be an adult, if you're talking to like 4 or 5 women at one time, they're not seeing each other. You have one you're dating on this side of town, another one at your job, another one on this other side of town. And so never the twain shall meet. In school, it's a little bit harder, which is, again, why you need to be more stealth about that. If you're actively trying to seek out one girl to date, then you don't have to be so open about, but I'm talking to a bunch of girls. But again, if they happen to find that out of their own accord, that's not going to make you creepy, all right? That's going to make you a normal guy and what happens is when other girls see you're talking to multiple girls, they see that they now have to compete for you instead of you competing for them. And that's the space you want to be in. You want to be in the space where women see you have enough value to where a bunch of them want you, because they're going to all see that you have value by the fact that they're going to see other girls that want you also. So never try to hide that. I did that when I was in middle school and high school, and it was like the worst thing. Whereas my brother, like 4 or 5 girls, like really had crushes on him, and they all knew he was talking to all these girls, and they were all totally fine with it. So that's just from personal experience that I saw by way of my brother, who was younger, by the way. But anyway, so he says, maybe a day or so after that, she reached out to me and during our conversation mentioned something about a friend of hers. I don't remember what it was specifically. And after I replied, said something along the lines of, he's a guy, by the way. So I really think she was trying to do that on purpose. It was a bit after this that I asked her out to the movies because she was showing signs of interest. She said no, saying she was busy. I've learned from your videos not to make up excuses for girls and not to dramatize rejection. Thank you. If they say no, it's not the worst thing in the world. At best, you just say, okay, great. Well, hey, if you change your mind, let me know. And then you go into somebody else. You not being bothered by that, women are going to test that throughout their entire lives with guys that they're trying to date, because most guys are going to get bothered. And they're going to look at the guy and be like, oh, I'm glad I dodged a bullet because he seems really bothered that I said no. If you can handle it with like grace, just like, oh, okay, cool, whatever. She's almost gonna be like, oh, that was easy. Wait, like, why did he do that? Maybe because he has other options and he's not worried about losing me. Like, what's going on? But either way, it puts you in a better space for her to come back later and say, oh, I changed my mind. Because when you're not pressuring her, now dating you becomes her choice versus an obligation. And that's what we want. So that good for you on that. He says, so I decided to move on and pursue other options, as you should have. She continued to reach out fairly frequently. So I'll go backtrack a bit. When she brought up the guy, so I just did a video that I'm putting up later today where I talk about the 9 signs that women like you, but they're not sure if you're interested, is that they will bring up another person, another guy specifically, that's like in their aura as a way to signal to you that she's desired. Because how girls think about it is this, because for them, if they know that a guy has other girls talking to him, then she knows that he's a desired man. So women will take that and project it onto us thinking it'll work. So they'll be like, oh yeah, this other guy, blah, 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 he's a guy, he's a this and that. One, to see if you're gonna be jealous, but also because they want you to know there are other guys in her orbit that also find her desirable, and therefore she's a desirable candidate. Now they don't know that doesn't work on us, and like more often than not, if we know that another guy is going for them, we're probably gonna be like, all right, I'm not gonna deal with that, have a good life. But yeah, if she's bringing it up and she's not saying, but they're actually dating, she's just letting you know there's another guy around to see what you're gonna do. So just a little tidbit for you for your future dating prospects. Anyway, he says, it was at this point that the girl's friend messaged me asking me if I liked her, her friend, to which I replied, quote, I did a little bit, but I didn't think she was interested in me, so I moved on, or something like that. So I would say this is that, this is just a lesson to learn early on. Do not involve friends in anybody that you're interested in, especially her friends. If one of her friends comes to you and says, hey, so do you like so-and-so, blah, 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 you don't need to answer that, because you don't know if the girl that you like is trying to get that as a way to see if she's like going to be turned off by you or creeped out by it. Like, you don't need to be playing telephone, right? So if somebody came to ask you that, like say ask me, hey, so Harry, like, do you like so-and-so? My response would be like, why do you want to know that? Oh, well, because, I was thinking blah, 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 blah. So, okay, great. Well, if she wants to know that, we can talk. But the friend doesn't need to know, because I don't want the friend going back to the girl that I like and giving either information that I didn't say or telling her stuff that is taken out of context, You want to have all those kind of conversations, if you're going to have them, with the girl in question. Continuing on, he says, her friend then told me that she was with the girl I liked the whole time. Immediately after, that girl messaged me saying that she didn't want me to think she didn't like me, but she was at her dad's house for the weekend and couldn't come. So she continues to reach out, and for the first time I start reaching out back, telling her about a weird dude who I didn't know who messaged me out of the blue and sent me a weird picture. Fast forward a bit, and she talks about her friend again and sends me a snap of his face with voice messages where both of them talked. She was even teasing him a little bit in one. I then go on to talk about how he looks like one of my friends and yada, 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 and we haven't talked since. This happened around 4 this afternoon. He says, I'm unsure what to do next. So for starters, like now she's sending you pictures of the guy and the voice. So you got to learn early on to know how to establish and set boundaries with women, because women, if you don't do that, they will do some of the most disrespectful stuff. They'll walk all over you. They'll send you pictures of things or tell you to look at certain things that you don't want to look at. And they know they can do that because you don't have the backbone. So you have to start like squashing these things early on. So if a girl sent me a picture of a guy and I'd be like, hey, that's great. By the way, I don't need to see that. Like, I don't need to be sent pictures of other dudes. Like, I'm sorry. If you want to send a picture of yourself in a more revealing outfit, then maybe, but like, don't send me dudes. Like, this is not what we're about. All right. Like, set that kind of boundary early on, because that is like some disrespectful stuff. Even if she's just using this guy as a means to let you know that she's desired, like her sending you pics of dudes. As a dude, you should never accept other pictures of dudes. Just saying. He says, unsure what to do next, was planning on asking her out to a trampoline park date on Friday and come up with some reason why I only have an hour, like you mentioned in one of your videos. But no. What I said is that when you first start dating a woman, you should be only asking her out Sunday through Thursday, because if you ask her out on a Friday or Saturday, then basically there's no way for her to have a reasonable excuse to stop the date, because you don't go to school or work the next day, you know? So you try to keep it to the weekdays. Now, obviously, if you're in school, you have homework and stuff like that. Maybe you can't find the time during the week to be able to take her out because you're actually doing work, or you're doing sports after school, or she's doing stuff after school, whatever. In which case, this is when you have the exception, where it's like, if you absolutely cannot plan anything with her during the course of the week, then you go for Fridays and Saturdays if those are the only available days. But really try to stress not to, all right? But either way, you don't have to tell a girl, hey, so I only got an hour so I can do this thing, blah, 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 blah. Like, don't do that. Just like you make a date and say, hey, figure we could go to this place for a couple hours and have a good time. Maybe go there and get some food and call it a day. And that way she'll know that after these 2 activities, you're going home. So trampoline park, hopefully the trampoline park has food added. If not, maybe there's a food place next door, like a Burger King or something like that. But like, yeah, trampoline park, little place of food. And then you can say, because you can't drive yet, so you can say, oh, so I'll have my mom or my dad pick us up and take us back home around this time. Boom. Then you know you have a drop-off point and you have an in-game point, all right? But yeah, so you can say it more like that versus like, oh, I gotta have an excuse. Like, the excuse is you're in school and you can't drive and you have your parents that gotta pick you up. There you go. Continuing, he says, it's good she's chasing me in a sense, but I'm worried that moving too slow might make her angry. Would love some advice, and this might even make a good video, blah, 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 blah. So here's the thing. You're the one that is setting the pace for this thing. Like, if you were a bit older, I would say that this is the part where like women control when access to their bodies happen, and men control when relationships happen. So what I don't want you to think is this. I tell guys on my channel, it takes a woman on average 2 to 3 months to solidify her feelings for you. Now, when you're in school, it's a bit hard because you're going to see her every single day, but it remains the same, is that as the guy, your job is not to bring up relationships. Your job is not to be like, hey, so when can we be boyfriend and girlfriend? It's not your job. What I found in my life, and what helped me start getting into relationships a lot faster, is that if I'm just showing up consistently and I'm showing her a good time and we're building chemistry and connection and all that other stuff, women don't find guys like that often enough in their lives. They might get a lot of offers to date them, but they don't find a lot of guys that they themselves personally connect with, which is why around the 2-month mark, if you're just doing everything right and not bringing up feelings and not bringing up being in a relationship, they will come to you and ask you, hey, so are you talking to anybody else still? Or are you seeing anybody else? Or I'm not seeing anybody else. Or so my friends are kind of wanting to know, like, what are we? That's the point where you can start talking about getting a relationship, when she brings it up. But you don't lose points for not bringing it up. What'll happen is this, because you're thinking she's gonna get angry. What's gonna happen is, if you don't bring it up, she'll get frustrated, but she'll get frustrated that you haven't brought up being in a relationship, and then she's gonna start going to Reddit and asking people, I've been seeing this guy for like 2 months and I really like him, but I don't know what I should do, blah, blah, blah. And then she'll go to her girlfriends. So me and so-and-so have been seeing each other for a while and he hasn't asked me to be a girlfriend. I don't know how he feels about me. And then they're not gonna be able to help themselves but to bring it up to you in the way that I just talked about, all right? So that's the easiest way. I wish I knew this stuff when I was your age, because you're 14 and 41, reverse numbers. I wish I knew that me bringing up getting in a relationship is usually too much for them, and it's usually too soon. Versus me just showing up in a capacity. And this means, during this time, you can kiss them, you can hug them, you can do all that stuff, but you don't have to do that and think, because I kissed her, now I gotta be in a relationship, or she's gonna be mad at me. That's not how this works. How it works is, if you're doing all that stuff, she's gonna be thinking, everything's so good, why hasn't he asked me to be in a relationship? I need to bring it up to him somehow in a sly, passive way. And when she starts asking, what are we? That lets you know she's ready to be in a relationship. And even then, you don't say, oh, we're boyfriend and girlfriend. You say, oh, well, what do you think that we should be? Or why are you asking the question? Like where are you at with what we're doing right now? And then from there, you guys are going to a conversation about potentially being in a relationship. All right? That's how that works. He says, additionally, it might be worth noting that there are numerous rumors going around among women that I am a catfish and a player because of my talking to multiple women. I don't know if this might affect the situation or not. All of my other options have turned tail and headed for the hills. I have to say that I'm astonished that this girl is still showing signs of interest regardless. Well, again, you're young, so the reality is that women are still trying to figure out at your age what they want also. I guess that's what they do for life. But suffice to say, so the catfish part could be if you're lying about something or you're presenting yourself one way and then they find out you're not that way, then you don't want to do that, all right? In terms of the player aspect, again, I'm 41. I've yet to see a guy that's been called a player ultimately lose out in the dating game. Like, worst case scenario, let's say you're talking to 5 girls and like 3 of them figure out, oh my God, he's talking to 5 girls, and they decide to skedaddle. Well, for one, if you're not begging them to come back to you, they'll probably come back around. But also, there's still 2 more that are there, and they're just gonna be like, oh, he's a player, so I wanna see what this is about. Or, well, I bet I can make him change his ways. Again, you don't lose out. But don't think, again, that talking to multiple women is a bad thing. It's only bad in your moment in time now because you're in school and they can all see you. If you were doing this in the adult world, nobody would know, and also nobody would care. Because I've dated girls before where they were like, well, we just started dating. You're probably talking to other girls. I'm talking to other guys. It is what it is. And we both have an understanding that if we decide to date each other exclusively, that won't be happening. So your go-to could just be, look, until I lock somebody down and somebody comes around and says they want to lock me down, then I'm just a free agent. I'm just out here just trying to get to know people in whatever capacity that means. That means it doesn't have to be you're getting to know them in a relationship capacity. Hey, some girls you'll come across, you're just going to talk to them and realize they make better friends than partners, and that's also totally fine. But, again, don't let the narrative of like, oh, he's being a player trick you into thinking that that's a bad thing. Because the opposite of that is a guy that is talking to no girls and every girl knows it, and therefore nobody's validating him, and therefore no girl wants him. Like, that is a lot worse. How do I know? Because that's what I experienced. My brother experienced a lot of girls knowing that he was talking to a bunch of girls and reaped the benefits of that in his dating life. So just letting you know that, okay? See, he has another couple of questions here. He says, what are some good first date ideas that leave minimal room for awkwardness and give me the opportunities to show off my personality? Well, I'll say this, is that ultimately awkwardness is only going to happen if you're bringing it to the table. Like, as a guy that was formerly an awkward teenager, I could feel going on these dates that I was nervous and anxious and was worried about what I was going to say to the girl. And because I was always in my head, when I would go, the few dates that I went on as a teenager, that's what would happen. It'd be awkward. There'd be silence moments. And I'd just be sitting there like, oh, and I'm thinking in my head, like, she's just hate me right now, blah, blah. And again, they could have been thinking none of that stuff. But the fact that I was thinking it, I projected that out. And then that's what the dates became. So it starts with you having to be the one that is confident. They can come to the date awkward as heck. Your job is to be the fun guy. You're going to be the fun guy that gets them out of their head and into new experiences. And to that end, most women are going to follow your lead on dates. And it doesn't have to be like the most extravagant date in the world. I've had successful picnic dates, walk in the park dates, walk on the beach pier dates. I've also had successful restaurant dates. I've also had dates that I took girls to like really good concerts that didn't result in us getting a relationship. So I don't want you to think that the date itself is the most important thing. What's the most important thing is what kind of feeling tone are you bringing to the date? Because she's going to follow your lead. If you feel awkward, she's going to be awkward. If you're nervous, she's going to be nervous. But if you're confident, if you're playful and you laugh a lot, then she's going to feel that vibe. She's going to be able to let go a little bit. You're going to be able to open up out of her like any kind of awkwardness or silence she had, because she's going to be focusing on the great time you're giving her versus like her being on her head. And again, even if she is on her head coming to the date, You are the guy. You're the one that's going to lead the fun train and be the guy that's going to bring us into a situation where she can also enjoy herself. But anyway, I'll continue the question. He says, I've heard I'm really funny and I know that's a turn on for women. I also wanted to know what you think the pros and cons might be for trampoline park dates, dating, doing things like trampoline, dodgeball, jousting. Ooh, jousting. I used to do fencing when I was a teenager. Obstacle courses, etc., and how I could make sure I give off the right vibe. I'm looking to ask someone out soon, and I would love to go to this cool place called Launch with her, but I'm worried I might peg a kid in the face, for example, and give her feelings that I couldn't protect our children or yada, yada, yada. Is that a valid concern or is it okay? Well, I'll say, as a 14-year-old, it's very admirable that you're already thinking about, are the things that I'm doing going to make her see me in a light to where it could be negative potentially in the future? That is very admirable. But that said, understand there's a narrative you can get if you're not careful from like movies and TV that like women only want flowery romantic dates. Oh, it's got to be like candlelight dinners and walks in the park and frolics and and none of that's true. Because here's the reality: is that the activities you describe, women love those. Women go to trampoline parks. I've been to trampoline parks. I did fencing. I've done obstacle courses. I've done escape rooms, which are also really fun if you have them near you. And women like all that stuff. But you might not think that they would like it because you might not see like a single woman there. But women that are in relationships or women that are going on dates, they want to do these activities, but they want a guy that's going to be there to make sure that they do it safely. For one, it gives them it allows women to test out if you're going to be able to protect them and guide them, which is great. And also, they get to see your masculinity in action. And I know guys think like, why would you want to do a masculine activity? A lot of times, it's not about her wanting to do the activity. It's about she wants to see the guy that she's with displaying masculinity because that's what turns her on. So you go to an obstacle course or you go to dodgeball, for example, where you're throwing balls at other kids, seeing you fight amongst other dudes, even with like these little rubber balls, that is going to be a turn on because it's you being in your masculine element. You go into a trampoline park, you're jumping around, you're doing all kinds of flips and stuff like that. You're braving the elements of the trampoline park. Like that's her being able to see you in a masculine way. You go into an obstacle course. That means you now have to guide her through the course and through the various obstacles that are there, and she wants to be led. So now she gets the feeling of your masculine strength. So all these things that you're mentioning, these are all great opportunities for you to demonstrate that you are a masculine guy that does masculine activities that she wants to see. Now, that doesn't mean you can't throw in, like a chick flick here or there or do some kind of flowery thing that she wants to do. But I'm saying that, again, women are going along with your program. You're leading the program. And here's the thing too, is that, and I learned this lesson late in life, is that you want to go out with women that are going to make it as easy as possible to get along with them, all right? So I wrote down some notes the other day, but I want you to think about this, right? Is that in the grand scheme of things, as a guy, when you get older, you're going to realize this, right? Is that almost any woman that you get with, you're signing yourself up to be willing to die for her. Like think about, if you're a guy walking on the sidewalk, you got to walk on the side that's closest to the street. Just in case a car jumps up, it can hit you first. Like that's the kind of stuff, that's the kind of level you got to be on. You got to think about the fact that as a guy, you are signing up to get with a girl that is good enough for you to die for. So now you got to ask yourself the question, so is a woman that is difficult to deal with, is she worth dying for? If you're suggesting, hey, let's go to the trampoline park, and she starts, I don't want to do that, blah, 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 is that woman worth dying for? If a woman is being difficult or is flaking on dates or is cheating on you or doing a plethora of other negative things, is that woman now worth you dying for? If not, then you don't need to deal with her. So if you ask a girl out to a trampoline park or obstacle course and she starts getting all wishy-washy or flaky, don't continue to fight for her because at this point she's showing you she's not interested or she's being disrespectful. She is not worth dying for and therefore she is not worth dating, all right? So all this to say, you're the one in control of the fun bus. You decide where you're going to take these women. Now, if you happen to mention, hey, let's go to the trampoline park and she says, oh, well, that sounds good, but also what if we did this instead? At that point, you can decide if you want to do her activity instead. That's totally fine. But I'm saying don't let any woman come along and deter you from what you're trying to do to take her on a date to show her a good time. The dating phase is the time for you to put your best foot forward and show her what you're made of. If she's trying to curtail that or fight that or be difficult, keep in mind, you're also able to judge her during this time as well too, okay? So don't let that be a situation that throws you off for thinking, oh, I got to date a different way now. Like, do what you're going to do, lastly, he says, at least for this cycle, because there's more questions he left, but this is what I wrote from yesterday. So he says, how do you turn lady friends into girlfriends? I have a couple of female friends that I would like to date. Well, for starters, I'll say for future reference, if you meet a girl and you think there's any kind of chance that you would have a crush on her or want to date her in the future, don't wait. Like, ask her for a number, and then, I don't know how you kids do it today, if you're going to call her or Snapchat or whatever, but like, get her on that date as soon as possible. Because the earlier in the cycle from when you first meet a woman that you can get her out on a date, it'll put her brain in the position of thinking of you right away as a potential romantic interest, versus when you get into the friend zone, it's a lot harder to jump out the friend zone. I've done it before, I've seen it done, but it is a very hard road, all right? Now, but here's the thing. You're jumping a lot of steps because you're thinking this, well, realistically, I've been friends with her for a long time, so she should already know how I am, and we get along great, and so I should just be able to go to her and just say, hey, let's be boyfriend and girlfriend. Or I'll just write her a note explaining that I suddenly have all these feelings. Big mistake. For one, if you go to a girl and just think, okay, I'm gonna just write her a note and tell her how I feel about her and then we'll be boyfriend and girlfriend, you gotta realize up to this point, while you've been building these feelings, she's only been feeling you as a friend. So think about this, right? Think about you go to a girl one day out of nowhere and you're like, hey, I like you, let's date. You've done no build up for her to start feeling those feelings. So the first thing is to get rid of the notion you're gonna go from just being friends to girlfriend. Like, again, I'm an older guy, that has never worked in the history of forever, right? So here's a few things, here's what you can do though, right? Is that you need to, one, not start treating her like a girlfriend, but start doing things that'll turn the ship into the dating realm. So something as simple as like, hey, I'm just gonna go see a movie this weekend and, I'd like to take you out. Like, just, whatever. Now she might say like, oh my God, is this gonna be just as friends or blah, 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 blah. At which point you can just say, well, I don't know yet, let's figure it out. But you're gonna find that more girls than often than not are not gonna be cool with that. So what I've actually found, this is what I did in college that worked for me, right? And it was a gamble, but I said I'm gonna try it out, is that at that point I hadn't had a whole lot of dating experience. And so I legitimately wanted to go on practice dates just to get my bearings, just to see if I could actually do a date. And so there were 5 girls in college that I kind of had crushes on. And so I said, okay, I'm gonna ask each of these girls out and just say, hey, you know what? I wanna start figuring out how to do better dates, and I'd love to go on a practice date with you. So I went to them and said, hey, I wanna go on a date, and I'm trying to practice going on dates because I haven't had a lot of dating experience. So if you would allow me to, I would love to do a practice date for you. We ain't gotta be boyfriend and girlfriend at the end of it, ha ha ha. But I would love to be able to practice going out on a date and doing the mechanics of it. Is that cool with you? And out of the 5 girls I asked, 3 of them said yes. And it turns out 2 of them actually had crushes on me too. But because I had never asked them up to that point, I wouldn't have figured it out, right? So try that. You can, and don't go to them all lovey-dovey and oh my God, I just care so much about you. I have feelings. Don't be doing that. You don't have feelings. You have lust right now. So what you do instead is just say, hey, so sometime after school, I'm 14 and I want to start getting into those of dating and kind of getting practice to that. So, I thought, hey, we've known each other for a while. I would love to take you on a practice date. Now notice I didn't ask the question. I always phrase date requests as statements because I found that for some psychological reason, when you tell somebody to do something, you get more results than asking them. So I wouldn't say, hey, would you go out on a practice date with me? I would say, hey, I need to go on a practice date and I would love to take you out on a practice date. Let me know when you're free. And see what they say. Now, worst case scenario, they'll say, well, we're just friends, blah, blah, blah. I say, okay, cool. Well, I just want to do a practice date, but if you want to do it, that's totally fine, right? The other thing you do is, and I just saw a TikTok I did recently that's been blowing up where I talk about how you can get yourself out of the situation. Let's say you want to ask a girl on a date and she's like, oh, I just see you as a friend, blah, 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 blah. You just simply tell her that you thought that she was interested, which is the only reason you ask. So for example, you got a girlfriend, a woman friend you like, right? You go up to her and you say, hey, so I was thinking I would love to take you out for dinner and a movie this coming Thursday if you're available. And she comes back with, oh, but I just see you as a friend. I thought we were just friends, this is that. Then you just say, oh, hey, you know what? That's totally cool. My bad. I thought that I was getting signals from you that you were interested in me. So that's the only reason I was asking. But hey, if you're not, no harm, no foul. I'll see you tomorrow at school. Boom. You've not expressed any feelings for her, but at the same time, you were able to ask her on a date and see what she was at. Now, what's interesting is when you do that and then you just kind of leave it off or whatever, now at least she has in her head, hey, so-and-so asked me on a date. And that can fester in your head like, maybe that would be a fun thing to do. Like, oh, he came so nice. He didn't beg me. He didn't tell me his feelings. He just wanted to go on a date. Like, is that the worst thing to just go on a date? We're already friends. And then from there, they might change their mind. You shouldn't bank on that happening, but they might change their mind, all right? So hopefully this helps you out with your first set of questions. I typically charge a lot for this kind of coaching, so there you go. But yeah, for the rest of you, hope this also helped you guys out with any situations you're going through. Ultimately, guys, like dating doesn't have to be hard. I think as guys, we make it hard. And part of that, I will say is this, part of that is because we do not study up enough on how women communicate and how they think about things. And so even at your age, really start looking now at like, you look at my videos, which is great, but really study up on the ins and outs of how women think about things, how they feel about things. You can start observing in your own environment the kind of things that women are falling for when they're looking for guys that they're dating, but really start being observant of that so you can have an edge up on other guys, all right? The more you study them, the more you understand them, the less frustrating they'll be. Because I can tell you right now, I just did a video where I talked about the fact that there are still good women, and a lot of guys are coming in my comments talking about, oh, well, you don't know today because women this and that, and I'm like, dude, like, I've had a great dating life for the most part, and I have family and friends that have been married for long periods of time to great women. Like, they do exist. But even if you come across a great woman, if you don't know how to date them properly, if you're frustrated about, oh, they communicate this way, this and that, then you're always going to fail. And I don't want you to be a guy. I went through my bitter phase when I was like 21 to 24. I went through my bitter phase of like, oh, all women suck and they don't this and that. I had to start learning. I had to learn it was me. And I had to learn the ins and outs of how they work to where nowadays women don't frustrate me because I understand. I have like 20 years of knowledge about how women work. So when they're doing things or saying things, I already know why they're doing it and it's less frustrating. And that is a better angle to date at than just like, oh, they're all crazy. Because you saying, oh, they're all crazy doesn't get you women. Like, and to be fair, women also have things about us that they find absolutely crazy, and we don't want them complaining about us because of just how we are, So don't be bitter about women. They're going to be who they are. You can either be mad at them or you can just learn how they function, and you'll make your dating life a whole lot easier. So hopefully this helps you guys out. Thank you for watching this special edition of Couch Chat. I'll be back with some more videos that are in 4K versus just on my phone. Be sure to go to the website, introvertdatingsuccess.com, for other ebooks, audiobooks, and tips that are designed to help you date as your introverted self while still getting your precious alone time. Like this video, subscribe to the channel, and I'll catch you on the next one. I'm out. Peace.
You's a bad boy, but you can't stop, won't stop. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high earning, high value, high class man. You a high class man. You a high class man.